The following podcast contains spoilers and words that my mother would prefer I did not say. We watched the thing. We watched the thing. Hello everybody and welcome back to We Watched a Thing. This week I'm lucky enough to have one of my favourite people in the world on with me. It's Emily Higgins from Tasteless. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here after the incredible hostile takeover that really touched and moved me. And I was like, and genuinely getting better numbers than episodes that I released.
You know what? It really made me realize how much prep you do.
I did not set myself up well. It's the solo thing, which now, you're smart enough to get other people on, but I don't like to be at the whims of other people.
Yeah.
And if somebody else was like, I'm not free this day, I'd be like, well, then I guess I'm not doing a show. So I just had to figure out what I could do involving zero other people. And unfortunately, it is doing more research.
Yeah, I haven't been brave enough to put one out for the wide release yet. But on my Patreon a couple of weeks ago, I did have a patron request that I couldn't get a guest for. So I just recorded both ends of a conversation with myself, just pretending that it was another person. Because I can't, the single host thing is really hard.
And I feel like it's a thing where it's like, no one actually wants it because it really is just, and when I first started, I would get reviews that were like, you should have a different opinion. I don't like your opinion. Like, you should have another person on to tell the other side. I was like, then listen to their podcast because mine is just a diatribe every week. That's what it becomes.
Yeah. But anyway, that was actually a lot of fun. But I'm so glad that you could join me this week to talk about a movie that I know we've both been anticipating. And it's funny, you know, I don't think of you as like a horror person, but this is now the second horror we've done on the show together.
We like the same, look, there's the, as discussed in this film, the artsy horror, right?
Yes.
But we both appreciate the trashier side.
That's right.
Which is more, like, less scary.
Yeah.
Yes. And I want there to be maybe like a bucket of corn syrup.
So we are, of course, talking about Scream, informally known as Scream 5. It's a 2022 American slasher film directed by Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, written by James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. The first in the series to not be directed by Wes Craven, of course, and it stars David Arquette, Neve Campbell, Courteney Cox, Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Jack Quaid, Dylan Minnette, and Roger L. Jackson. And what is it about, Em?
It is the fifth film in the Scream franchise, and it has the new crop of kids dealing with their own Ghostface, but they have to call on the old guard to come help them contend with a murder, very, very self-referential murder.
That's right. Did you rewatch any of the previous films in the lead up to this one?
I didn't, because I was so positive I wouldn't get to see it opening weekend, and then I have to wait for the 45-day theater window to end, and I was really bitter about it, so I refused to watch any of them. And then decided to bite the bullet and go, and was really mad. But luckily, it's a series I'm familiar enough with that I think I got 90% of kind of the Easter eggs and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Because I've seen 1 so many times. I've seen 3 several times.
Same, yeah.
4 I've seen once or twice. 2 I've seen a few times. They filmed the college in number 2 is Agnes Scott College, and I went to a camp there specifically.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I want to go there. And I'm 12 or whatever, walking around that's where Neve Campbell stood on that railing, and people are like, this is a space camp.
That's one of the coolest. Every time I talk to you, you come up with another just amazing story.
Just weird. We only cover films that truly have deep psychological ties to my childhood.
Well, let's get straight into it then. I'm exactly the same. I adore this franchise, and I have really strong memories and ties to it. I remember seeing the first Scream because my mum was a big horror film fan, and I remember watching it with her, and I would have been maybe 10 or something. and I just have such strong memories of it. Did you enjoy this film? Did this film scratch the itch for you that you were wanting it to?
I did. I was worried for the first half because I'll say right off the bat, don't care for any of the new people. Jack Quaid is fine.
I had the exact same reaction.
Jack Quaid has his charms.
Yep.
All of those people, no charisma, nothing going,
Yeah.
Didn't care, was waiting for Neve and Courteney to show up. David was also great, but I was just like, I'm not interested in these kids at all. So I was worried because at least with 4, I was like, oh, Kristen Bell, I can get behind. Like, I don't know. It was kind of a cast that I knew, but I think I'm at the point in my movie going experience where I'm like, I don't know these teens.
Yeah. Yep. I'm exactly the same.
But then like halfway, I mean, do you know, like, at what point were you like, okay, I think that this is going to be solid? Or did you not? I mean, you liked it, right?
I did like it. I did. I'll get that out of the way now. I did. I had the same thing as you and even right until the end of the movie, I was like, I don't care about these kids.
No.
Which is why, spoiler alert, I was fine that most of them died. Because I don't need a sequel with these same kids. That's for sure.
I had no emotional concern. My concerns would be like, do you want to talk about kills? I mean, I could be vague.
No, yeah, let's. I mean, I've got a spoiler warning at the top of the show. If people are listening to this, that's on them.
When Deputy Judy's son was being threatened, I was like, I don't want that kid to die because I don't want Deputy Judy to be sad.
Yeah,
like that was I was like, I know that would affect her. She's trying to get him sushi. Like, she's really stressed by this. But then when she died, I was like, oh, okay, bye. Like, you can die.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't, whatever. And I didn't mind when the twins died, even though I liked them probably the most of anyone, because when it was both of them, I was like, okay, neither of them has to be sad now because they're both dead. Is how I approached it.
I agree, actually. By the end of the film, they, particularly her, were easily the characters that I liked the most of this group of kids.
Yeah, her tone was really interesting because at first I was like, is this annoying? And then I was like, no, I think it's clever, where she had a very dry kind of approach, and she kept twisting it, but not in the way that I hated Amber. And the way that Amber twisted it, I was like, I'm not interested in this routine, this shtick.
She was also, I think, the most familiar character to us. Like, in this franchise, she's the Randy, effectively. Like, she's the one who's giving us the into the meta-ness that Scream is. And so I think that automatically gives you some kind of familiarity with her. So
that's definitely a character that's kind of easier to get on board with than like the heroine. You know, she gets the funny lines. She gets to be kind of silly. The fact that she was Heather Matarazzo's daughter. What's her name? I was like, wow, they really pulled some people out.
Yeah.
Randy's sister, I don't remember her name. Is it like Tiffany or something?
Yeah. I did not remember that either. Like, I recognized Heather Matarazzo, but I was like, who is she?
I clocked that one. I liked, you know why I was familiar with a lot of the Easter eggs is because I feel like a lot of them pulled from 3, which is the one that I probably saw most recently and really like have a weird affinity for.
That's interesting. So 3, I did see 3 recently as well. Last Halloween, I watched the first 3. And then after watching this, I was re-inspired to go rewatch 4, which I think is an underrated film, actually.
I remember being pleasantly surprised by it, and I think back on it now and it seems kind of bland, but I feel like if I watched it, I mean, it had a Culkin, it had like a good Nav Seaman, had like a surprising villain. It had an awful haircut though on Hayden.
Yeah, but nothing is as bad as the haircut on Courteney Cox in 3. I mean, if we're going to talk about hair, that is a monstrosity.
I genuinely, when Courtney and Nev are both on screen together, they both had gorgeous like chestnut locks. I was like, yes, this is what I'm here for. These 2 brunettes just making things happen.
Yeah, it's true. I love Neve Campbell so much. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Party of 5 coming back to me or like, because I will always, even though she really doesn't act anymore, like this is the first time I've seen her in anything since Scream 4, like 11 years ago. But she's just so likable. And I think that's what made those first 3 films work so well. Like, looking back, I wonder how differently written the characters really were. You know, like we talk about not really caring about these characters. I wonder if it is actually just that cast of the first one that made us care.
That it factor. Yeah, because she was a perfect, like, everyman. Sidney Prescott very much isn't super cool, isn't super tough, isn't, but is kind of pretty regular, has a little bit of chip on her shoulder, but just she pulls it off so well and is so charming and just such a star. And the fact that they got them all back for all these movies is just phenomenal. And it speaks to, I think, the continued level of the storytelling.
Yeah.
And this definitely felt appropriate for kind of the 2022 version. But God, just to see her again, I was scared. I was like, oh, they kept this from the trailer that she has kids. What?
Yeah.
The kids are going to factor in. I was so glad she left the husband and kids in whatever town she lived in.
Yeah.
Ditched them, came to Courtney with like a gun ready, like, let's kill someone. That's what I want. Like, she's 50 and she's like, let's just get this over with.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk story then. Scream has always played on the meta-ness of, horror as a genre. This film, I think, really goes beyond that by playing with the meta-ness of the franchise itself, I think. Which it's done increasingly over time. Like, you look at the third film, which is about the making of a film, and that to me is almost too much. 3 is definitely my least favorite of the franchise. I'm sorry to say that to you. But
okay. They're all pretty solid, so that's okay.
Yeah. But did you like the story and where this went? Like, was it unpredictable enough for you? Did you see all the twists coming?
I was surprised. I will say at first I was very annoyed by the self-referential. I thought it was very cloying when it was coming from the youngsters.
Yeah, it seems
I was very
a
much
bit
like, okay.
fan servicey, but like you say, when it's coming from the youngsters, you don't even get that moment of like, it's Neve.
Right. Like they said when they're talking about like, oh, it's a Mary Sue or whatever, I was like, oh, come on. And then the fact that they're like, everybody here is related to somebody. I was like, really? You guys are all the friends? The Randy's nephew and niece, like, you guys are the friend group? Okay, fine. And it just kept being like, if this was a movie, if I was in a movie, I'd tell you to run. If I was I was like, I get it. We're in a movie. You're in a movie. Yeah. I get it. But when it came to realizing that we're in Matthew Lillard's house, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
They pulled, I was like, all right, this works for me. But they could have easily lost me in that first half because it was so like, we're just as fun. Yeah. Also, wait, I have an important question for you.
Okay.
Is it Babadook, which I thought it was, or what this child kept saying, which was Babadook?
Yeah. As an Aussie, I would say Babadook. For sure.
She's American, and I don't know. I just was so thrown off when she's like, it's just like the Babadook. I was like, what? What is your accent?
Yeah, Maybe
that's how you're supposed to say it.
We would say Babadook. So not Baba, we'd say Baba.
And I don't remember the movie enough to know how that man pronounced his name. I just know he's like a gay icon, I guess, according to the internet, the Babadook.
Is he?
But he is.
Really?
Yes. People have signs of him at gay pride parades.
What? Wait, I am so confused right now.
Babadook is a gay icon, and I don't understand why, but he is.
My brain is wrinkled. Is that really a thing?
There is a release of the film that comes with a limited edition pride flag slipcover.
Wow, okay. I must say, I was so impressed when that reference came out because I do love the Babadook, and as an Aussie, I was like, yeah, represent.
That kind of reference, I was like, okay, that's a little bit fun because it is very modern. Then they're like, oh, it's the director from Knives Out. And I was like, okay, you live in the world. Fine. I'm done. But I think the story, the killers surprised me enough. I mean, I think those movies, it's like, I don't think anyone could reasonably watch the first time and actually know who it is, because I think it very much, the movie goes in such a way that it could be a bunch of people. And
Definitely.
Then you kind of assign, once you know, you're like, oh, of course. And you could have done that for any of them.
Exactly. And here's my thing, because I definitely suspected the two, but for some reason in my head, I never put them together. So even though I had suspected them, it really surprised me when the ending happened, because I was like, whoa.
I hated Amber being the killer, but then when she just shot someone in cold blood, it was so shocking that it kind of worked for me because it was so brutal that I was like, oh, I don't, a kill in this franchise has never felt quite that, I don't know, like gory and just awful.
Yeah.
But then I was glad that it was also the guy because I was like, okay, that to me is the more interesting part. But then again, they spent 10 minutes of him being like, the real fans. We met on a subreddit.
Yeah.
We're in 4chan. We know fan service. And I was like, okay, it's the internet. I know about the internet too.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the other weird thing about the two of them doing it is that they're trying to pin it on somebody else. So it's like, wait, so you don't even want the fame of doing it, you just want these murders recreated for why?
Right. And it's like they put a lot of effort into them being the kill. Like they put a lot of fanfare into them for them to not want themselves to be the central figure. It was like a little like, okay, you guys really shoehorned that motivation in there. But again, I think he was really an effective kind of spiritual successor to both Skeet and Matthew.
Definitely, yeah.
To see all the Billy Loomis and not get any CGI Matthew Lillard made me sad. And that, I liked seeing him, but that through line of her having visions of the father she never met.
That I found that strange
looking
as
like
well.
He looked the night that he did. Like, there's no actual footage in this world.
Yeah.
Of what he looked like that night.
I know, right?
Strange.
I had the exact same thought. I was like, where is she conjuring this vision from? She never met him. She it seemed very strange to me. And that was the one thing that for me I was really like, okay, this is fan service. Because I didn't know that he was in the film. I didn't know that we were going to see that. I was like, oh wow, this is a surprise, but this is kind of it. It's just there to do this.
And as soon as she had a secret, I was like, I bet she's Billy Loomis's daughter. That
really?
To me, I was like, yeah, of course.
I didn't pick that
I was
at
like,
all.
I bet she is. But number one, she looked like she was a different ethnicity than him, which is fine. But I was like, okay, fine. We haven't seen the mom. But to have the end really be that weird setup for, I guess, a sequel of like, she does have a serial killer in her.
Yeah.
I mean, that feels kind of antithetical to her being the hero.
It does. And it also kind of feels unlike Scream because Scream you've never gone into a Scream movie with like these predisposed suspicions. Like, it will be weird going into a sequel if we're meant to suspect that she's a killer, or if I just don't know how that's meant to work, or I don't know.
Right. And I think, again, it's like we get to the end of the movie and I'm like, yes, Courtney and Neve sitting together with blankets. And then she walks in and it's like, okay, you're here too, Billy Loomis's daughter. Great. Get out. You're like, okay. I just was so uninterested, and she wasn't bad, but it just like, I thought David Arquette was great.
I was just going to bring him up. Let's talk about the original cast. Obviously, they're all amazing. He really brings something else to this, I think, and not just his acting, but the way that they've gone with that character, I think. And then obviously, spoilers, what happens there, which really did take me by surprise. Were you shook by that?
I did cry into my masks. I cried a little bit over Deputy Judy. But then her son died and I was like, okay, well, they're fine. Whatever. David Arquette, though, and again, I will say I was mostly sad because I was like, oh my God, Gale is going to be so devastated.
Yeah. Yeah.
But his story to me was so interesting that he kind of just couldn't hack it, but I didn't like the implication that was left of like, well, he just has to be in Woodsboro. Why? He's not the...
Yeah.
What's the tie? I mean, I think he probably just couldn't hack it in a big city, and Gale's like very schmoozy and he's kind of like a homebody, fine. But it was very weird that he's like, I have to be in Woodsboro. Like,
yeah.
Okay. But their relationship has always been such like a heart of the movie. Oh, did you see I liked the Tatum box of ashes on his little mantle. I thought that was a nice touch. Like,
I didn't notice that.
So we go into his trailer, like when we first see him, and there's like a little plaque on a box, a little gold plaque that looks like whenever I've had like pet ashes. So I think it's human ashes. I would guess. And I was like, that's a nice nod, you know? Yeah. But he's just he grounds it. He's so much more real than anyone else. And so I was like, at least he's with the kids. If someone's going to shepherd these kids, I'm glad that it's him.
Yeah, that was when the movie really turned for me, was when they started interacting with him and he came and was like a detective with them. And at that point, I was worried that we weren't going to get more Neve. Part of me was like, that phone call he had with her is it. That's it. That's her appearance in the movie. They're teasing us like they did with Jurassic World, where they're like, the cast is back, and you see them for like 4 seconds. Like, I was
so scared.
Yeah. So I was then, it was a smart move because it kind of disappointed me. And then when she did pop up, I was like, yes.
Yeah, and even the way that they had Gale come and then be like, you texted me? I thought that was just immediately kind of reestablishing the relationship that the two of them have. And then I was thinking, is it weird for them? Because in a way, it kind of mirrors like, you know, they divorced in real life. Yeah. I think she is quite a bit more successful than him. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I was like, I wonder if that's so strange to kind of be back on this thing where you guys fell in love and spent these like very formative years of your marriage.
I didn't even think of that.
It added a weird layer.
It must be weird when things like that happen. It's the same with like Dexter coming back this year after they split up, and that was always weird because they played brother and sister.
The fact that, and I remember I haven't watched the new one, but I watched the original, and the fact that they divorced because if I recall correctly, he was fooling around quite a bit.
Oh, I did not know that. Oh,
and then
I thought I liked him.
The season after is when Deb decided she was attracted to Dexter.
I know.
Oh my God. When you guys were married, you played brother and sister, and now you're in a like contentious divorce.
Yeah.
And you have to like, that's
It's
awful.
Cooked, mate. It's cooked. It must be the most awful thing ever. And also that storyline was just so bad. Like, I don't need this sibling love story, please.
No, actors, you always see it's like actors are always falling in love on set because I feel like they're just like there is that palpable chemistry sometimes.
Yeah.
And David and Courtney still have it. Absolutely. Like
they do. Yeah.
Neve and Courtney, I think, work really well together. They don't have quite as much kind of oomph together, but I really did like seeing them team up.
Yeah. So, let's talk about the deaths then. Obviously, like with Officer Dewey's death, that was heartbreaking. Did you find the film... there's been a lot of talk about how gory the film is.
Yeah, that's interesting because I did just think... I think the gun deaths just somehow feel... and the stabbings were really... Was it more stabs than usual?
There were
a
lot of
stab,
stabs. Yeah.
But they're just like 17, just brutal, and blood's coming out of the mouth. Blood came out of everybody's mouth. Everybody's
that's
spitting blood
true.
out.
That is true. Yeah.
But it was to such an extent, and because it was so, it did feel kind of intense, but not noticeably so. Not like when I saw the like 2018 Halloween and they're smashing head and teeth are coming out, and I was like, oh, this is very different than kind of just the tension of the original. This was not quite such a big leap, but it was a little, especially the several people's heads get shot, like brains came out of a couple different people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, but because it's the stabbing, it's always like, well, they just got stabbed 70 times, but they might still be alive.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
A gunshot is much more final.
Yeah. One thing I like about the Scream movies is that it's never been this kind of like extravagant deaths. Like pretty much every death is just a stabbing, and what makes it more fun is that tension and the build up to it. And I thought that this film still really had that, even though this wasn't Wes Craven. I thought the direction was really solid. I loved the cinematography, lots of interesting camera angles, and with all horror movies, that classic use of just lingering cameras slowly moving so that your eyes like dart around the frame to see where he's going to pop out from. There are some scenes where it gets a bit over the top. I can't remember who it was, I think it was Judy's son, when he's after he showers and like he opens the fridge about 10 times just so that we're like waiting to see Ghostface behind the fridge door. It gets a bit much in some moments.
It was a long run of him opening the bathroom door, him closing it, him opening the hall door, him opening the fridge, him opening the closet to get the bowls out, him opening the closet to get the chopsticks out. And every time there was no one. But I will say I was really shocked by the Deputy Judy trying to run into the house to save her son, and he's just right there and stabbed her.
Yes, that's true.
I thought that was devastating, but really solid and surprising.
Yeah.
It wasn't her stalking around the house. She didn't even get that chance because she was just like ran in.
Yeah.
And definitely. I was like, oh, that's so upsetting. But then there was that one scene, I think it was the son, Judy's son, where the knife was like in and there was just like a flap of neck.
Yes, I do remember that. That was. And
I don't remember that.
Nasty.
Usually it was, I feel like in the past films, it was just a lot of like people wearing clothes. And I mean, everybody in this film wears clothes, but like just blood soaked clothes. You know what I mean? Like just their clothes would suddenly be darker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than like
as physically seeing
neck
blood.
holes.
Yeah. I know what you see.
I feel like I've talked a mile. I truly just watched this movie and was so excited and was so relieved that it was good. I didn't have to be like, I'm so mad. And I was like trying to look at the trivia and I was like, this is too much trivia. None of this is fun. I was hoping for more Easter eggs and maybe people will start catching them. But like the friend that I went with pointed out that when Jack Quaid is watching that like clip from Stab 8.
Yeah.
You could see recommended videos on the side, and there was like a recommended video that was an interview with Kirby that was just like a stock photo of Hayden, which I was like, okay, so she's alive.
Yeah, see, that's cool. I would have liked more ties to Scream 4, actually. And I feel like maybe they didn't just because people don't have the same amount of love and nostalgia for it. But so our friend Sam Hurley from Movie Reviews in 20 Qs, he messaged me yesterday just before he went to see it. And he was like, do I need to have seen 3 and 4 before I see this? And I was like, I actually don't think you do. Like, it's very referential, but most of the references I think are to 1 and 2. Like, there's a lot of ties to like Billy and Randy and that kind of stuff. I mean, Judy, I think, is the only character that carries across from 4.
Right. And I do like her. I was glad to see her.
Yeah. But I would have loved to have seen Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah. And I like Heather was from 3, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. Because she was like, I just remember her in the trailer on set because she had a tape from Jamie Kennedy, from Randy.
Yeah.
That she was playing for them. So, and I felt like the cast thing, like the first scene where they're looking through the stab cast. And I was like, is that all? Was Heather Graham actually? Like, I was trying to figure out, I was like trying to remember who actually we already knew.
Yeah.
And what was like new information.
Yeah.
But also, where was her mom? Her mom's in London.
Yeah.
And her daughter gets stabbed 80 times.
I know.
She's like, well, I'm not cutting my trip short.
I know. I thought that was a bit crazy too. Like, there are a couple, obviously, it's one of those movies. There are things that happen just for the story. Like, it's this, I thought it was a bit ridiculous when Officer Judy, she gets the call from Ghostface that he's going to kill her son, right? So she starts racing back home, immediately gets on the phone for backup.
Yeah,
and yet the scene of her son like opening fridge doors and stuff, which is all from memory after she gets killed. And it's like, wow, this is taking an incredibly long time for any backup to come. And like, this is not like, it would be easy for cops to get here. And yet in the final scene, so it's almost like this town has no cops. And then in the final scene at the party, there's like 50 fucking cops looking at the crime scene. And it's like, where were all of you earlier?
They felt really bad about it earlier, so they made a point of getting there on time.
Yeah.
In that last scene, I did just keep thinking, truly, like, law-wise in America, if someone attacks you, theoretically, you can fight back, all right, and not go to jail, okay?
Yeah.
But if you stab someone like 30 times the way that Billy Loomis's daughter did, at what point is it like, all right, this is now a crime?
Yeah, this is not self-defense.
This isn't self-defense. You did something weird here.
Yeah,
we need to keep an eye on this.
Self-defense is like stab them in the leg so that they can't like run after you. It's not just like repeated stab.
A shot to the head or the throat slit, but just she stabbed him so many times, and I don't know. I've never done it. It feels like it would be difficult to stab someone, right? Like, it must be. It can't be that easy to get a knife in a chest.
Yeah, I would think for sure it would be difficult. Like, you're dealing with plenty of bone and stuff in that area. Like, it can't be that easy.
Right. And the thing that they're implying, like, well, she's Billy's daughter. It's like, well, she's not super strong. She's a Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. Like I find it difficult sometimes even just like scoring pork skin to do a roast pork. I'm like, this is pretty hard to get this knife in.
Sawing at a steak and this person's like, "Argh, argh."
Yeah.
I think truly after like 5 stabs, the police have to be like, look,
Yeah.
this is not cool. Like, and Dewey's death was honestly also kind of just embarrassing for him.
Yeah.
It gutted.
Yeah. Yeah. It really took me back actually when he was like, we got to shoot them in the head. You got to make sure they're dead. And I was like, okay, I like that reference. Make sure they're dead. And then, holy shit, Dewey's dead. Like, this movie had stakes. It really showed that it had stakes.
Yeah, I was ready for him to go back and Ghostface would be gone. You know what I mean? I didn't think he was going to go back and get stabbed.
Yeah.
And not just stabbed, but like opened up. Used so much blood on the floor. I was like, ooh, they can't have him come back the way that they had somehow that small child from the opening come back.
Yeah. Yeah. So how are you scoring this film then? It sounds like we were both pretty positive on it.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, look, I think my ranking still is like 1, 3, and 2 are pretty tied just because I think 3 is so fun. It's like you can't deny 2 is a really solid, fantastic film and a fantastic follow-up. I'm trying to decide. I need to rewatch 4 and see if this kind of ranks with that or if it outclasses it. It definitely isn't worse, and I think it was a really solid entry. Like, I'm not mad. The fact that we've had 5 of these and none of them are stinkers, they're all pretty worth it. And just like you could sit down at Halloween this year and be like, let's do a marathon and be pumped for all of them.
Exactly.
And not be like, oh, we got to get through number 17.
Yeah, it's not like the Freddy series or the Michael series where there's several duds. Like, these are all strong. And it's now been, like a 25-year period, and they've all stayed solid.
And they've all been pretty good, like, time capsules of, while still remaining relevant, kind of the new one was very much like today's, like, and they talked about how movies now people don't like when they're woke, and this one was in a way, very, very commenting on like internet culture and incels, but it did a pretty good job of towing that line. I could have used like a few less references. Yeah, it was definitely like kind of the first one on steroids, but all things considered, I would say it's like a solid 4 out of 5. Yeah. I'm a 7 out of 10, so like a 3.5 out of 5, I guess. I liked it a lot. My ranking, after rewatching them all quite recently, for me, it's actually 1, 4, 5, 2, 3. Ooh, I'm gonna have to rewatch 4 then, for sure.
Yeah.
I truly only remember the opening had Kristen Bell. Yeah. That there's a haircut I don't like, and that who's a creep? Emma Roberts is a creep. Yeah. That's what I remember.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me to talk about this. This was heaps of fun, and I'm glad that we were both able to get to it at the end.
Thank you for letting me just truly, I feel like I really just came on here and steamrolled. We watched a thing, just my excitement. I drove home and was like, I get to talk about it.
Oh, man, I literally several weeks ago did a hostile take of your show, so you can take over as much as you want.
I'm now here. I'm actually just here to talk about Scream 3 and really vouch for it.
So can you tell everybody where they can find Tasteless and just how wonderful it is?
Oh, yes. There are, search Tasteless in your podcast apps. There are some other weird Tasteless shows. Tasteless Gentlemen. Tasteless, a lot of men.
Okay.
I don't know what they're doing. Tasteless, you'll know it has movie tickets on it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about nonsense, like why The Room with Tommy Wiseau is better than House of Gucci. I just had my 200th episode, which is why I had the wonderful We Watch a Thing hostile takeover. And then I redid my very first episode from 3 years ago of La La Land versus Showgirls, which is really, honestly, that comparison is like the heart of the show. That's what the show is. I genuinely, I believe it. I believe Showgirls is a better film. It covers the same themes of like trying to make it and following your passion. And I think it is infinitely more enjoyable than La La Land.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
That's such a great
should not
idea,
have
though,
watched
to
it with my
redo
dad.
that episode. I should really do the same thing at some point, because our very first episode was on 2017's Justice League. And I regret deeply that for I don't know, I didn't know what I was doing. I gave that film a 7. And I'm like, I've publicly retracted it many times, but I'm like, I just need to just delete the episode or redo it or something.
Because I find that people still listen to that episode, and I have not re-listened because I'm too embarrassed, because now I research pretty well. And for this 200th episode, I researched very thoroughly. You know, I always watch both movies that week and before I write about them. But that episode, I think I was like, I'm going to do a podcast. And I maybe hadn't seen one of the movies in a while. And I kind of just made things up and just talked and didn't know how to edit. And I bet there's like a hum, but it has the most listens because it's the first episode.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, look, I could do this better. There was merit to the idea, but please don't listen to the original.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really do highly recommend Tasteless. It is a lot of fun. It's well produced. It's just... And not only is it fun, it's really well thought out. Like the research you put in and the comparisons you make are always really astute. Like it's just a cool show.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I am going to run out of them one day, but so far, nonsense movies keep being made.
All right. Well, next week I'll be talking about Nightmare Alley with Sean Carney from the Scaredy Boys podcast. Have you seen it yet? Are you a Guillermo del Toro fan?
No. Oh, is that out?
It comes out this week.
You.
Yeah, maybe it's just for us. Oh, that would be exciting.
Okay, I'm excited for that because I hate Bradley Cooper with such a passion. Despise him. So if you like it, though, I'll watch it. But if you don't, I can just give it a pass completely.
Okay. Well, I'll let you know for sure. All right.
Thank you.
In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with me, you can do that at wewatchedathing.com or wewatchedathing@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all under the handle @wewatchedathing. If you want to help support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/wewatchedathing, and I'll catch you next week.